Welcome back to some Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely little island of Fawnhollow today? Is my microphone lower than usual? It might be a bit lower. Let's raise it up a little bit. Oh, sorry. Just, working things out in... What's that phrase? I was going to say in virtue, but that's not the phrase. When you do something as it's rolling. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We're doing things as we go. This is a classic Animal Crossing way, because... Actually, it doesn't really relate to Animal Crossing at all now I think about it. But still, let's just get on a day. Isabel saved me. Hello there, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow at 3:34 PM on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. I have an exciting announcement to share on behalf of our island's esteemed museum director, Blathers. Oh, is it the museum day? In honour of International Museum Day, the museum will hold a stamp rally from May 18th to May 31st. Ooh, doesn't that sound like fun? I hope everyone heads over to the museum and joins in the rally. That's all for now. I hope you all enjoy the loveliest of lovely days. I forgot about International Museum Day. Of course, it's something, if you want to check out, I definitely done it a year ago. We'll see how it's different this time, and I assume you can go into an art museum, the art galleries, to do that sort of thing. Is Red Our Visitor? It's not Red Our Visitor. I have cleared out a bit of a mailbox, so we've got a lot more space, something from Gulliver. Yeah, but apart from that, I can't imagine International Museum Day is all that different. Hi, I like sending postcards to friends. Should I write more? Maybe next time, Jakey. I've never seen that letter before. So that's a cool, fun one. I noticed, Bruce, over there, you're thinking about something, I think. And just in the effort of seeing if people want to leave or not, we're going to run over here and talk to you, because we have a lot of Nookmar tickets saved up. And we've got a lot of things to be doing. So yeah, what do I want to talk about? Hey, so it's kind of hard for me to say, but I noticed that people around here call you Burrito. Okay, fine. We're going to head over to the museum first anyway, because we want to check out International Museum Day and see how it differs compared to last year. We'll get to see our art gallery, which is about half complete after an entire year of playing Animal Crossing, which is mildly depressing to say the least, but we'll see. But yeah, what do I want to talk about? I actually do have something I want to talk about. I want to talk about a while ago. It was about the video game It Takes Two from... I don't actually know who made it, It Takes Two, but anyway, why hello dear. We'll get onto that as we do it. May 18th is International Museum Day, and to honour it, we're holding a stamp rally. Please allow me a moment to give you a brief explanation of precisely what this most esteemed day is. International Museum Day is a day to understand the educational wonder that only museums can provide. As a collecting place for all types of knowledge, museums are a critical resource for learners far and wide. Indeed, they can spark imaginations, making difficult ideas easier and perhaps even more fun to grasp. But to put it simply, International Museum Day is a day's for getting to know your local museum. I don't know if we have a local museum near us, but still. Now, the stamp rally works thusly. The bug, fish, fossil and art galleries each have 3 stamp stations. You must find the stations in each gallery and acquire their stamps. Do so and you'll earn a memento. There are several unique mementos, one for completing the rally in each gallery. Whew, it's true. My chair is sinking down very, very quickly. What is going on? Do be sure to give it a go whilst perusing the museum's many fine exhibits. Don't you give us the card, or do you not give us the card? Okay, never mind. Yeah, I want to talk about It Takes Two. It's if you don't know, it's a co-op game by... I'm going to look it up. It's something like Entertainment, I think. Or that might be completely wrong. It's the people who made A Way Out. Who makes... Developer something? Hazelight Studios. Oh, never mind. That's completely not what I thought. Anyway, it's a co-op game between a couple going through a divorce and their rocky relationship. And... as dolls, I suppose. And I'm not going to spoil much of it, because I feel like obviously that's not the best thing to do. Sometimes it's nice to take a short breather and relax on the bench. But I played it with Benedict for a while. It's a decently long game. It's like 10 to 14 hours, depending how fast you want to be. And I played it with Benedict a decent amount, Shady Path, and we beat it recently, last Saturday actually. It seems the temperate climate bugs are relaxing here. I just want to talk about it for a little bit, so I'm not going to spoil things, and if I do spoil something, I'm going to preface it with a spoiler. But if you don't know, it's basically like a puzzle. Nah, it's more of a platformer with puzzle-ish elements, which is co-op, and it's a rare game. The reason you can see so many dragonflies in the water is because that's where they lay their eggs. It's because it's a game where co-op. It's a game which was designed with co-op and only co-op in mind. So it's a game you actually have to play with 2 people, rather than, a game where like co-op is sort of tacked on to the single player campaign, which is very exciting because not many games are like that. You got like We Were Here, you got Portal 2 co-op campaign, Biped is another good co-op game, and me and Benny were like playing our puzzle co-op games, so I was like, we should check. When I saw the trailer for it, I was like, we should absolutely check this out, and he was like, hell yeah. Well, he didn't say it, he was probably like, yeah. So we did, and we've been playing it over the past weekends for quite a few weeks now, probably a few months now or something, and it's, I gotta say, on the whole, super fun. I don't think it's the best puzzle co-op game. Oh, I don't think it's the best co-op game in existence, but they should call this display Not Dinosaurs Chapter 1. It is certainly up there. It probably makes like top 5 or something quite easily. But the only thing I would say that makes it fall short is the story and writing is not great, in my opinion. It could be a lot better. Extinction Spot. I had actually no idea there was a meteor out there this entire time. I'm sure, I don't know what it said, but I think it said I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, but the premise is you're playing as May and Cody, who are a couple who are planning to divorce each other, who have a daughter, Rose, who they are, at the beginning of the story is they tell her about the divorce is coming. Rose is obviously quite upset about that, as, you know, understandably. And Rose has like this weird magic book or something which she found in a library. No, she found in a dumpster, I remember, that she wishes that her parents could get back together, basically. Cenozoic, sorry. Or those silhouettes above and behind them. And then May and Cody's souls are basically transported into these little dolls. This like wood doll and this clay doll I think she made in model of her parents, which is a bit strange. And then it's basically the whole story is May and Cody trying to figure out how to turn themselves back into humans, or like how to reverse this magic curse that Rose has either accidentally or on purposely put on them. And they're accompanied by this book called Dr. Hakim, who is a very, very stereotypically like Spanish question mark accent. He's a very entertaining character. It's rather over the top and probably too in your face at times, but still. So it's an interesting game where you go through basically the entire house, which is somehow massive, turned magically massive, and every single like level is like features different part of the house. Like one of them is like Rose's bedroom, so it's all like toy themed. One of them is like okay, I was about to spoil one of the later ones. Maybe not. One of them is like the giant tree house in their backyard, where you go in and you meet like a squirrel civilization, basically. Yeah, I basically stopped reading these stamp things, whatever. I'm sorry. And basically, it's got a sort of like a Nintendo feel to it, where they introduce you to the world and like, this is the aesthetic of that sort of thing. And rather early on, they give you each specific power-ups. Because the first level, I think you start the garden shed, and the power-up is May has a hammer, and Cody has like these nails that he can chuck out. So, you know, hammer and nail. And you can do some interesting thing, like Cody can stick the nail into like the wood panelings on the side, and May can swing on it with a hammer and other things like that. And May can obviously hit things, and Cody can shoot things like that sort of thing. So you can have some sort of battle systems as well. And basically each world is themed around some sort of aesthetic, and they each have some sort of power, and then using the power they had to work together and cooperate to complete the world, basically get to the end. There's a few boss fights along the way using interesting mechanics, and it's very heavily on the platforming side, but the puzzle elements are not very difficult. The puzzle elements are very light, if anything. So don't go in expecting like We Were Here level puzzles or that sort of thing. It's not that level. It's more like a co-op platformer, and it honestly plays really well. Like mechanically, it's super fun to play. It's fun to dash around. The worlds, the absolute key point of the worlds is the worlds look amazing. They're fun. It's like an artist's love letter, I suppose. Like someone that had an aesthetic was like, okay, we got this aesthetic, how are we going to run with it? And they just went wild, creating like these worlds, and they look absolutely beautiful. I'm not going to lie. I think the garden level is my favourite. If for some reason you watching now playing this game and wanted someone to talk about It Takes Two over the backdrop of Animal Crossing gameplay, which is an interesting sort of niche, but you know, fair enough. The 18th and 19th century brought us Rococo and Romanticism. I could stare at these styles all days, if only there were more of them here. Art from the West. And yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, gameplay-wise is very fun. But mechanically, it's not too difficult, which is fair, because I feel like this game is sort of marketed towards you're meant to... It feels like a couple is meant to play this, right? And often when in couples, you have one person who likes video games, not necessarily... And the other person might not necessarily like video games. If they do like video games, it's fine. So often, that sort of dynamic is appeal to and somewhat. Art of the 17th century sure was fascinating. There was always so much to say about every piece. So yeah, it's a bit on the easy side, sorry, but it's much more of a sort of like if you want a tight, mechanically polished game, it's actually quite tight and mechanically polished, but it's not like it's there's a lot of depth to it, I should say. What the depth is all like exploration based, where's basically tons of things that you can interact with at all points. So I want to look at my stamp thing. Why is the thing on the bottom right not stamped? Or is that like we had to go to Blathers to do it? I can't remember, it's been a while. Yeah, and another thing they have is we have like these little mini games in all the worlds where you can do sort of things like one of them is like a whack-a-mole mini game. There's like a snowball fight. There's like a tug of war battle, and they're scattered out throughout these levels to have, sort of like break up the monotony throughout the levels. Well, no, it's not monotony, but like break up the. I just want to see if he's giving us. Is it a plaque still? Fish plaque. Okay, well, it's exactly the same as last year, apart from we're going to get an art plaque, presumably. Anyway, yeah, we've got little mini games to sort of break up the gameplay pattern, so you're not just platforming with like timing or like running around everywhere. You got like these little competitive mini games between each other. It's super fun, and it's not gonna lie. And Takes Two is a wonderful experience, and I'd highly recommend playing it if you and a co-op partner are interested in that sort of thing. I will say its shortcomings though, as I mentioned in the beginning, is absolutely its writing. Its writing and story is okay at best, and a little bit like sus at worst. Because you know it's going. I don't want to talk too much because obviously I'm someone who's not experienced divorce or anything or of that ilk. And what memento? Is that a different memento? No, art plaque. Okay. Do you give us a different thing? Another thing? Come on. Nope. Okay. Well, so it turns out International Museum Day is essentially the same, except for now we've got the art exhibit. Yeah, I don't want to comment too much on the story because obviously I'm not speaking as someone from any experience or who had to experience like anything similar to divorce or parental troubles or that sort of thing. And if you do, my sympathy or empathy, no, sympathy, empathy is not the right word there, goes out to you because it's obviously a difficult and tough subject to bring up, especially if, like in the character in the story, the child involves children, and the children are quite young, like Rose is like 8 or something. So it's quite a serious topic, and amusingly, It Takes Two is quite a light-hearted game. It doesn't take itself very seriously, as you can tell immediately from Dr. Hakim and his very outrageous, over-the-top personality. And you know, it's sort of like a watered-down story because May and Cody are very, very not shallow personalities, or kind of shallow, but like very. They are what they say on the tin, you know. May is very sort of by the book, straight-laced, logical sort of person, when Cody's sort of like free spirit, emotional, does whatever, but also a bit too laid back and almost lazy in some aspects, and unmotivated person. But yeah, and you can kind of tell exactly where the story's going, like almost immediately. So it's like, oh, you know, they're basically, it's basically, I don't want to call it a kid's story because that sort of suggests that kid's story can't be like interesting to adults as well, but it's like, it's what it says on the tin. Basically, you can predict like every beat of a story. Oh, they've got relationship troubles, they can't see eye to eye, and then somehow as they do all these activities and work together, they're going to end up liking each other again, and then, you know, they're probably going to fall back in love or something. And then Rose will be happy. Like, that's not even a spoiler, like, you can just see it coming. It's so unbelievably obvious. Oh, Flick is obvious there. But anyway, yeah, but there's some tenuousness about it because I'm not entirely sure about the idea that you should be like, oh, divorce can just be worked through if you just try hard enough, you know, if you just try and fall in love again, then it will work. And, you know, like staying together with the kids, because often that can sometimes end up in a worse situation than before. Obviously I shouldn't comment on it too much because it's not something I experienced, but it's sort of like when I first see where the story's going, it's just like I'm not sure this is quite the best thing to do, but I feel like the angle they were going for is not that Cody and May have like, how should I put this? Like Cody and May I think the angle they're going for is basically this is trying to do marriage therapy, because they've never like tried it before, and you know they were, and story-wise in game they were like too willing to just be like, okay, let's divorce without even really like trying to communicate with each other, and this is like actually communicating with each other and realizing that these are problems that they can get through. But on the surface level, I suppose it doesn't necessarily read exactly like that, so it's a bit May 26th is Bruce's birthday. Okay, sure. Which is why it's I don't know. It doesn't, I suppose it doesn't feel quite right, is what I want to really say about that. Your marriage may vary, though. You might be like, oh, they executed it perfectly. Another thing is, I think the story is a bit weirdly all over the place and boring at the same time. Like I said before, it's very, very predictable. Like all the beats of a story, you can just be like, you can just like save them like that as soon as you can start seeing. As soon as like the story starts, you know exactly what's going to happen, which is like, you know, not necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think it's meant to be the start of the show. The thing is, there's lots of cutscenes. Like lots of cutscenes in the thing, so it kind of feels like the story should be kind of a bit bigger part of the show, but it's very weird. There's a lot of tonal whiplash, and if you play the game, you'll probably know what I'm talking about when I'm going to say the spoiler of the elephant scene. Okay, spoilers. Basically, in one of the levels is you get to Rose's room, and there's some magic involved in the story, and they know that to revert themselves, that they had to get Rose to cry. It's tears which reverse the spell somehow. Whether it's really explained that magic is a thing in this world or not is ambiguous, so don't look too much into it. Plant flowers change and bells by selling items. Okay. We need to go get some insects or Flick as well. So yeah, they're like, okay, we need to make Rose cry. And then for some reason, for an unfathomable reason, they're like, immediately the first thing they do is like, okay, to make Rose cry, the only way we can do it is we need to like kill her favorite toy, like destroy her favorite toy. And it's like, what? That's the only way you can think to get her to cry. You can't like interact with the world and like, you know, play a sad movie or something, or just like kids hurt themselves all the time. She's gonna like fall over at some point probably and start crying, or you know, the fact that her parents aren't responding to her whenever she's trying to speak to them, maybe she'll cry. Or you know, why not make her cry tears of happiness or something instead, and like get her a load of candy, and she's like, oh my god, this is so great. But no, they're just like, okay, well, let's destroy her favorite toy, and it's like, okay, fine. What I thought was going to happen is like we're going to do it and be like, oh, we're horrible people, why are we using our daughter as like a pawn in this weird game we're trying to play, and as if we're trying to get her so overly involved in something that she's innocent of in the first place. And even worse, if you don't know, because of the weird magic in the game, is everything is now sentient and sapient, basically. I don't know the difference between those two. Sentient's like if you have a conscience, and sapient is if you just like are alive, right? I forget. Anyway, so everything is basically like a living being. And it's sort of just like, okay, it's a bit strange. So they go to, they take a bit of time, but they eventually end up at Rose's room, which is basically, I think it's Rose's playroom actually, so everything is basically a huge toy box, and by the way, the world is fantastic, and it's really fun. You meet someone called like Space Baboon or Space Monkey, I can't remember, and he's super fun to talk to. He's an amusing character. You have a nice little boss battle with him, and basically the aim is you try and get to Rose's elephant, whose name is Cutie's castle, because she's like the queen of the toy room and that sort of thing. And along the way, they're just like, oh, I don't know if we should do this. It's like, I guess we kind of have to do this. Like, this is the only way to make your daughter cry. And I'm just like, I really don't think it is. I feel, but I was kind of hoping, like, when we get there and be like, oh, this is a terrible idea, we should do something else instead. But then you basically get to the top at Cutie, and you meet Cutie, and she's a sweetheart. She's so nice. She's basically like, she's like childish innocent wrapped up all in one. So she's just like a sweetheart. She's like, hello, would you like some tea? And she's absolutely adorable. And they're just like, oh, and I'm really sorry, Cutie, we have to murder you, or that sort of thing. And then she's like, oh no. And then it's basically this weirdly like not horrific chase sequence where Cutie's basically freaking out because people have just like arrived to try and kill her, like understandably, like assassins, I suppose. We need another stink bug. I didn't realize this. And then, basically, like, you do end up killing her, spoilers, but you do it as you, like, slowly, like, drag her off the top of a cupboard. But what you do is, like, you like, slowly dismember her, like, she tries to, like, hold on to, like a sewing needle or something, and then you, like, rip her arm off, and, like, and he like pulls out and it like sticks into her ear and like it rips her ear off, and she's like screaming the entire time, being like, "Oh, humanity, oh, save me, someone help me out." It's just weirdly horrific, which honestly, in a vacuum, that's a quite an amusing juxtaposition between like when the innocent like childhood like toy box aesthetic and this like horrible murder you're doing. But in the context of a game which has been so like lightheartedly fun this entire time, it's a bit of a weird tonal whiplash. And my problem at the time, my problem was like, this is like really mean spirited. I don't know why they're doing this. Like, this is horrible. I don't like it. But then like in retrospect, I'm like, it's actually kind of amusing, but it's like I think it's far too like extreme a turn. The thing which bothers me about it is like Cody and Mia, just like from that point onwards, they're just horrific people. Like the entire time they're like, "Oh, I hate doing this. I'm sorry, cutie, but this is the only way." And we're just like, "No, it's not." And then, you know, it's a sort of thing like a video game is like, "Oh, look at this bad action these think people are doing. Don't you feel bad because you're the people controlling it?" When it's not necessarily that, but I mean, it's like, "Oh, I feel bad because I'm the one doing it, but this is like the only option you're giving me. So what am I meant to do?" It's like that sort of thing. So it's like, "Oh, okay." And then yeah, and she just horribly dies. Rose sees it and she starts crying, and then they're just like, "Yeah, she's crying. We can transform back to normal." And then she's like crying, and they're like taking a shower in their tears, and it's like not working. They're not at all concerned about the fact that, you know, the daughter feels horrible and they made her cry, which I suppose is meant to reflect on the fact that you know, this whole divorce, they're not taking Rose into account at all, because they hadn't even told her, and she found out by accident before they actually decided to finally tell her. So, you know, it's meant to, I suppose, meant to show the like not short-sightedness, but the selfishness that the two have when it comes to their relationship and how it's affecting others around them, I suppose. But it's just like, from that point onwards, it's like, all right, so Cody and Mia are just horrible people, I guess, for some apparent reason. Like before, like it was, I suppose, a little bit grating that they kept like being so petty and arguing with each other. But, you know, I had a conversation with my friend Milky about this, and he was like, it's fairly realistic that adults would have such like petty arguments about something. And, you know, I do kind of agree to that extent, but it's sort of like it's an interesting choice to make your characters not likable from the get-go like that in a game which is basically framed about rooting for them to get back together. But then it's also interesting to make them basically straight up unenjoyable to a certain extent. It's just like so weirdly horrific. And I think the biggest point about it is not necessarily that they did that action. Like, fair enough, if they do it, you can make your characters horrible people. They can be, not horrible, but they can be flawed people. And then, you know, from their perspective, obviously, it's just a toy, so what's the matter? But, you know, they don't really think about the gravitas of how much it will affect Rose or that sort of thing. And, you know, the fact that it's that all the creatures now sentient, it's got a whole new weird layer of sadism to it. But it's just, they never even talk about it afterwards. They're never like, "Oh gosh, you know, we really just made like our daughter cry for to transform us back. I know it's the only way, but was that really the way?" And, you know, I felt horrible every time, you know, I was murdering cutie and that sort of thing. And it's not good enough for them basically during the action to be like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I don't want to do this," and then continue to do it, and then like completely are fine afterwards, and they have a jolly good old time going like ice skating and that sort of thing and reminiscing about the past. But yeah, so from a character development standpoint, it's a bit awkward, I think, and doesn't quite put it off. But, you know, it's fine, basically. I would say it's not like terrible. It's not like, "Oh man, it's enough for me to stop playing this game." But it was enough for me basically to go like, this is really weird for a game to put in. It's a weird direction to go. And basically, I think, despite the family sort of like friendly nature look of a game, I don't think it's meant to be a game for kids in the first place, or like E for everyone. It is like written with a little bit of an adult spin in mind, which is fair. I guess like kids' TV shows are kind of like that in the first place, aren't they? Where they often like drop in adult jokes and that sort of thing. But it's just like but they're trying to go for like that weird, like shocking, I suppose, amusing value, and I think it almost lands. But the fact, actually, I think the moment in itself, the humour actually does kind of land. It's actually kind of funny in retrospect. It doesn't quite appeal to my humour, but I do like the juxtaposition of it, like the extreme actions and the cutesy like playground of a level they're in. But it's just like, from a character development standpoint, it's just like, what? Is it really what you wanted to do? And apparently it was. So what can I say? Except you're welcome. Anyway, we are going to quickly dig up some fossils and sell them, because that will be Oh, we need to check our no, we don't need to check our nook terminal. We've done that already. So yeah. So despite that, but it's not actually my least favorite level in the game. I actually think it's a really good level, the toy box level. It's actually probably the best level, and and after reflecting on it, yeah, it is kind of funny, the premise. It's just like from a character development standpoint, because it might not matter to you, but characters are like really important to me in stories, and like my favorite parts of a lot of stories. And I was like, there's potential in these characters, but it's sort of just like I'm left by the wayside. It's not abandoned per se, but it's like not executed particularly amazingly. I think there's a bit of a stilted character journey, and I heard that was a common criticism of their previous game, A Way Out, where the characters are basically like almost end up becoming parodies of each other or something. Not parodies, but more like they're so tropey or something that it's like unamusing, and I don't know. Anyway, the whole point is you shouldn't really pay attention to that, because the story is not that important in the game. It's like the story is sort of like a means for you to progress, when really the highlights of the game is within its mechanics and its exploration and its artistic and aesthetic design, which is really fantastic and honestly gets 4 marks. But if a story like was a story that like hit a little bit harder, you know, like emotionally, maybe it didn't emotionally resonate with me because it's not a story which is particularly something I can empathize with as easy because I haven't been through it. But if it's a story that like hit a little bit harder, it felt like it made me care about the characters a little bit more rather than being sort of just like there, then I think it could have been honestly like game of the year material almost, at least for me. I know it's a bit early to say that because we're only halfway through the year, but it's just like, yeah, that short little bit misses a mark. I will say some parts as well, like but puzzle aspects was not particularly difficult, but you know, fair enough, they turned it down for simplicity's sake, is what I'd imagine. And it misses a mark here and there, but the writing is not enough to make it a bad game, but it's enough to make it not quite. It's enough to, like, you know, drop it down half a grade or something. Not half a grade, maybe like 0.5 out of 10 or something. Maybe not drop it down. It's more like the lack of the good writing makes it not reach that plus 0.5 more it could. So yeah, all in all though, fantastic game. Loved playing it. Loved basically most of it, to be honest. There's not much to dislike. The minigames are super fun to play with. The power-ups, some are better than others, I would say. Like the magnet one was a bit dull, I think. But some of the other ones were really fun. Like there's a section of the toy box level where you basically May becomes a warrior and Cody becomes like this wizard, and it's like this top-down dungeon crawler. They fit like so many different types of like genres of gaming. Because at one point it becomes like a third-person shooter, like on rail. Oh yeah, but there's a lot of on rails like shooting sections which are a bit boring, IMO, but it's not too bad. They're not like frequent enough that you're like, oh, but they're frequent enough to be like, okay, here we go again, I guess. Oh, tiger butterfly. But on the whole, fantastic, you know. Great fun. I'm trying to think what other power-ups are super cool. I love to talk basically just about the levels even more, because the levels are super fun, but I don't want to spoil it obviously for you. I know it's spoiled the story points already a little bit, but you know, they're not the important part, so you don't need to worry about that all too much, I think. So honestly, if you've been wondering, should I give It Takes Two a go? I've been seeing like good reviews about it. I can't recommend it enough. If you're looking for a deep puzzle experience, maybe I'd point to like We Were Here or Portal 2. But if you just want like, I don't know how else to say it except for just like a pleasantly fun time, then We Were Here is definitely not We Were Here. We Were Here is great, but It Takes Two, it's a fantastic game. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I guess we'll round up this episode here then. There's enough of a spiel about It Takes Two about something which really doesn't matter, which I just talked about the story, which doesn't matter. Don't think that I think it's a bad game. I think it's a fantastic game. And I think the mechanics and the aesthetic design far makes it shine bright enough, so brightly that it doesn't even matter that the story is like meh at best. And it's really fun. And honestly, isn't that all you can really ask for a game? For entertainment. So yeah, I think that's all I had lots more to say, but we're encroaching on half an hour, so we should probably round up here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. This has been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Links down below. I hope we can see each other again, but for now it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.